Anyway, we'll take some questions. I wonder if any questions will have to do with the Democrats' recent attempts to absolutely guarantee Donald Trump's reelection. We'll find out about that. I just want to check one thing here because I have not been up on the news too much today. All right. Well, um, I I have I have often wondered at how such little things can be blown up into such big things in this country, but this absolutely takes the cake. It really does. I've never seen anything like this. Um, I just don't know what to say about it. I've never seen anything like it. As I understand it now, the Democrats are going to try and say that Donald Trump needs to be removed from office because he said, "Hey, do me a favor." And he said, "Hey, do me a favor," after the Ukrainian president brought up the issue of corruption. And I don't think you can be impeached over saying, "Hey, do me a favor." And here's the one thing I've been saying from the beginning, and I don't know if I've heard very many people talking about this, but to me, this is the entire point of the thing. There is an enormous, enormous night and day difference between saying, "Hey, I'd like you to look into something for me," versus saying, "Hey, I want to make sure that nobody looks into this for me." Right? There is the reason that they're screaming so loud about Trump and impeachment now is for the same reason that they brought up the whole Russian collusion thing in the first place. Hillary Clinton colluded with Russia, no question about it. They bought her influence. She sells a quarter of the U.S. uranium to Russia just a few days after Russia pays Bill Clinton to come over and speak for 45 minutes and pays him $850,000. So if Hillary Clinton's guilty of collusion with Russia, then what you have to do is you have to accuse Donald Trump of it, and loudly and quickly. And when all of a sudden Joe Biden's son and his illicit dealings with Ukraine come out, and your front runner is now actually showing real signs of actual trouble, because it looks like Hunter Biden got his dad to make deals with Ukraine in exchange for his $800,000 salary. And so if this is about to break, then there's nothing you can do but, by God, we got to pin it on Trump. And so, okay. Now we know. We have the world that we have the world of, and this is the world. So, what do we know? We know that if they go ahead with this, they can bring articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. We know that these articles of impeachment will essentially be based on Donald Trump saying, "Hey, do me a favor." The Ukrainian president, who weighed in on this, said not only did he not influence me, but I brought the subject up, and that's in the transcript. Going to have a hard time convicting him. But this is the point. Most of you know this, some of you don't. Impeachment is a two-step process. As usual, the founders got it exactly right. As usual, the genius of these men. I don't, for the life of me, it's a very compelling argument for divine intervention, and I'm as serious as I can be. I do not know where the wisdom came from. But what the structure is that the House of Representatives, which is elected every 2 years, it is flushed every 2 years. It'd be nice if it was flushed every 2 years, but at least you have a chance to flush it every 2 years. The House of Representatives can determine that there are grounds for removing the president from office, and articles of impeachment can be generated in the House. So the House basically says, here's all the thing the president did wrong. This is what we think. We think he's got to go. And then they vote on that. And if it wins a vote, then it goes to the Senate. The Senate doesn't create the charges. The Senate doesn't create the case. The Senate just votes on it. This is the genius of these people. So if the Democrats, which control the House, want to go and advance these articles of impeachment over this thing, okay, then you will be able to say that Donald Trump was impeached to the degree that Bill Clinton was impeached. Neither one of them removed from office. There's no chance Donald Trump's going to be removed from office. And I happen to think that the left is so absolutely, absolutely overwhelmed with hatred for Donald Trump that I think even they know that the deal that they're making is we want that asterisk, we want that impeached thing on Donald Trump's name so badly that we'd be willing to trade another 4 years of Donald Trump for it. And folks, I don't know about you, but I'll take that deal. Absolutely, I'll take it. If I have a choice between Donald Trump losing in 2020 and not having these impeachment proceedings go, or having impeachment proceedings that everybody knows are not going to result in him being removed from office, I say do it. If it means that much to you, and that's what's going to guarantee his reelection, do it. That's what happened with Clinton. Clinton's popularity went up, and the Republican popularity went down. So I say bring it on. They're going to get another 8 years of this, 4 years of this, elections everybody talks about voters, turnouts, ground game, organization, phone calls. Yeah, those things all matter, but there's only one thing that really matters, and what matters is, are you motivated to go out and vote today? Because even in a very high participation election, it's still, 50, 60% maybe? Probably less than that. So the question is really, the Republican diehards are going to go out and vote. The Democratic diehards are going to go out and vote. These are about even. And the question is, what's going to happen? Who's going to want it more? In 2018, the Democrats wanted it more. I was surprised by the outcome, but they wanted it more. The people who voted for Trump in 16 didn't come out in 18, so the Democrats got the House. But this, I think this is, it's lit a fire under me. I'd love to see some feedback in the comment section, because for me and for everybody I get a chance to talk to, conservatives are just white hot with rage over this, at just the sheer, plain childishness of it, and the absolute unwillingness for these people to realize that they lost a vote. Oh, the state of California is probably monitoring my electrical output here. Uptick Mick is a name I haven't seen for a while, at all actually. Says, I suggest they fear Trump more than they hate him. He was one of them. How many of their secrets does Trump know? If he gets the DOJ under his control, he will expose more of them, maybe even Schumer and Pelosi. Well, he's had 2 years to get that done. I like this Attorney General a lot better than I like the previous one. But if you don't bring charges against these people, then the rule of law is finished. But here's the thing about Donald Trump, and I'm really convinced of this. I don't think there's much question about it. The reason that the progressives despise him and loathe him and hate him with every molecule in their body is because Donald Trump understands what very few people on our side understand. And that is that all of the power that the left has is power that we give to them. The only power that the left has at all is the power to make you feel guilty. It's the power to make you feel bad about yourself. And social proof is the most important motivator of human behavior. It's more powerful than your deepest desires. People would rather be seen doing what everybody else does rather than be seen doing what there's closest to their heart. So, social proof was always powerful. Social media has multiplied the power of social proof and made it virtually almost irresistible. And so the only way that you can defeat the left is it's not a question of truth. It's not a question of truth, not a question of right and wrong, not a question of facts, nothing. Nothing. The only way you can defeat the left is to not care about what they say. That's it. That's all. And that's it. He doesn't care. So some clearly mentally ill, oh, there goes my chances of being on Fox News. Young woman gets up and in a kind of performance that you might see in a junior high school version of Birdie or something. You might want to say you might want to tone that down just a little bit. So he says, well, she seems like a very happy young woman, and I'm sure she's got a long life ahead of her. How dare you mock a child who's come from nowhere, struggled to stand in the face of these adults and dare to tell the truth. That's all you need to know about progressives, right? Progressivism is really pretty simple. They actually believe that if a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old gets up and says something, it means that it's more true than somebody who's been studying it or is an expert on it for 4 or 5 years. They actually believe this, or 4 or 5 decades. They actually do. They believe it. They think it must be more true. I think Evan Sayet was saying that the left says everything I ever learned about life that mattered I learned in kindergarten. That's a book, and they love that. Oh, if only we could get back to the innocence and purity of children, the purity of children, the raw innocence of children, these fresh minds that haven't been polluted by greed and racism and all the rest of it. Just nothing but little fountains of truth. Folks, 4-year-olds are natural-born liars. They are so good at lying. They learn how to lie so fast. And I'm not talking about individuals. I'm talking about every person on the earth. 4-year-olds can lie well before they can speak, and they can lie with a kind of fluidity and easiness that telling the truth is not going to ever catch up with. You can talk to a 4-year-old who is alone in the kitchen with his face covered with chocolate and crumbs everywhere, and ask that 4-year-old, "Have you been eating the cookies?" And he'll say, "No." "Well, what are these crumbs doing on your shirt, and why is your face covered with chocolate?" A man came in. A man came in, jumped in through the window. A man came in through the kitchen window, and he started eating all the cookies, and I went up to tell him that you shouldn't eat those cookies, and he pushed me away with his hand, and that's why I have chocolate on my mouth. And then he went back out the window again. And they will say that, and they'll stick to their guns. So if you believe that children are natural-born truth tellers, then you're an idiot. You're either seriously mentally impaired, or you have such an emotional need to believe in simplistic things that your ideology is convincing you that what your eyes are seeing is just wrong. Children are natural liars, and they're natural narcissists, and they're very selfish too. People think you have to. How many times have I heard this from the left? You have to teach children to lie. Growing up is the process of teaching children how to lie. No, growing up is teaching children how to tell the truth. They lie just fine on their own. They're good at it. And anybody who's ever raised a kid knows this. Anybody who's ever seen a child or anybody who's ever been a child, and I'd be willing to bet you that's pretty much everybody, knows the kids are just natural-born liars. They'll try to get away with murder. You have to train them to speak the truth and make them punish them when they don't, and make them realize that playing the truth in the long run is better odds. So no wonder the left loves this 16-year-old. She's got nothing to say. She's got nothing in terms of proof, nothing. What she has is she's young, and she's got the requisite moral outrage. She is angry enough to be telling the truth. I actually have mixed feelings about mocking this girl, because on one hand, I really genuinely think that she actually genuinely is really, as Steve Green said, a victim of child abuse. I really think there's no other explanation for it. But since she's chosen to throw herself into the spotlight, my first thought when I heard her speaking was, how disappointed is this young girl going to be when she dies in her sleep at 95 years old in the same house down by the river or down by the seaside that she grew up in? How disappointed is she going to be that she didn't get to live to see the destruction that was just around the corner for her entire 85-year life? She's going to be heartbroken. She's going to be heartbroken. I saw a 15-minute takedown of the whole theory of carbon dioxide and global warming. It's just devastating. I've heard people try to refute the idea that the Earth is a sphere as well, and the flat Earth argument is not devastating, but the argument against this entire global warming thing as being something that's never happened before and is going to kill us all if we don't just shut up and give them the money it's a 15-minute presentation by the former founder of Greenpeace. His name has eluded me. He's got all of the bona fides for far left progressive, and he finally just is it Tony Heller? Is that who I'm talking about? I just got a text in the comment section. Somebody just mentioned a name, but that name came after I mentioned what it is. I think it's Tony Heller. In any event, it's devastating. He's just showing chart after chart after chart after chart after chart. It's devastating. So anyway, they've got a. Is it Patrick Moore? Thank you. So they've got a. On one hand, you've got a climate scientist who's showing you sunspot cycles. He's showing you actual core temperatures from around all these historical periods. He's showing how we once got down to 170 parts per million, and at 150, plants die. And once the plants are gone, that's when you genuinely are out of, then there's no recovery. Carbon dioxide is plant food. He said plants are most comfortable at about 1,000, 1,500, 1,200 parts per million. We're at 400. They're saying if we get to 450, it's the end of the world. The Earth has never been this green because there's not been this much carbon dioxide since we've been able to see it from space. And I hate to break this to these people, but look, the Earth is 4,000 million years old, 4,500 million years old. Everything that could happen to this planet has already happened to this planet. And if the planet didn't have feedback mechanisms that restore it to the balance that we see now, we would have been a cinder or a snowball a long, 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 long time ago. But this thing has, the reason Earth exists is because the Earth is built in such a way to exist. If carbon dioxide levels go up, let's just say the theory's correct, carbon dioxide levels go up, it gets warmer. If it gets warmer, more water evaporates. If more water evaporates, that means more cloud cover, which means more rain for the plants, which are going to grow faster because they've got more carbon dioxide to build from, and more cloud cover reflects more sunlight back into space, which cools the Earth. And the plants that are growing because there's a lot of carbon dioxide then take the carbon out of the air and put back oxygen, and everything takes it right back to this pretty narrow band of CO2, which modern times has been at the absolute bottom of the total carbon dioxide spectrum of the planet's life. This 300 part per million thing that they're looking for from 1950 or whatever, that is about as low as it's been, dipped a little bit lower than that once. But most of the time, it's double, triple, quadruple what it is now. And any single person who understands, you don't have to be a climate scientist, you just have to read what the carbon dioxide levels were for any period in human history, and then go back all the way through pre-human history, and they will tell you what the carbon dioxide levels are, and you will realize that this whole thing's a sham, and I'm not going to turn the show into that. It's just, anyway, so. All right, let's look at some questions from the Facebook page here. I'm telling you now, I will skip any question that's not related to Norway or impeachment. By the way, when I was at that hotel, that restaurant in Norway, one of the options on the menu, I'm going to get the pronunciation wrong, but it was something like, Val. What? Yeah, you want some Val? Volk, whatever. I think it was Val. What's Val? Why, it's a perfectly lovely slice of minke whale. You get to eat food that thinks. I declined on the whale. I declined on the reindeer. In fact, I declined on just about everything. Somebody mentioned something about the food. I was not enamored with the food in Norway because, like most northern countries, they eat a lot of meat. And I'm from Bermuda, Florida, and California. And I love a good steak as much as the next guy, but I don't love a good steak 4 times a day. And it was a pretty meat-heavy kind of an existence. All right, so what are we looking for here? We're trying to find a frickin' comment section for the frickin' Stratosphere Lounge, frickin' see all. Show me. Facebook gets stranger and stranger and stranger and harder to use every single day. Come on. Comments. Here we go. All right, 24 comments. Wow. Now you would think I could list these by as most relevant, new, or all comments. You would have thought that one of those options would have been highest rated. That seems to me like that would have been a good way to rate comments, since you've got a thumbs up thing. So you're basically rating them. You would have thought that you could select comments by highest rated. But no, that would be too logical. So I'm actually going to do something I don't usually do, and that is just I'm going to kind of scan up and down and look for the biggest numbers I see. A bunch of 4s. We got a 4, got a 4, got a 4. Here a 5. There's a 5. Got a 5. Okay, who's going to give me a 6? Who's going to give me a 6? 6, looking for 6, looking for 6, looking for 6. 2s, looking for 6. And 2, sold to the guy with a 5.